All right. Welcome to today's live stream. It's our monthly webinar with Ralph Ward. He's an author, speaker, publisher, and the publisher of the Boardroom Insider. We're so glad that you're here. Ralph, how are you today?
Good. We have a late summer, early fall day here in Michigan, and I would rather be outside instead of in front of a camera, but I can do more good here. So,
Well, I'm leaving for Greece tomorrow, and I can tell you that
oh,
I have some leaves in my future immediately to move here in Pennsylvania. Uh, so, in any event, today we had the general topic of why boards are too often surprised and what to do about it. So, that's kind of our theme today. Um, and I think, Ralph, if you have some thoughts on that, we could start with that, and then I'll be asking for questions, and you can take them on as we pop them up on the screen.
I'd love to. Yeah, I cover this topic quite a bit when I do my training and
Yeah.
speaking. And there's an exercise I love to do at the beginning, and it doesn't necessarily require any feedback from the members. It's more of a thought starter. But I like to toss it out. These are actual things that a board of directors did not know or did not know about. The board did not know that the chief executive was canoodling with someone in corporate management who ultimately reported directly to the CEO, and the board had no idea they were having an affair going on. And all the time, no one bothered to mention it to them, and no one on the board was aware of it. The board of directors doesn't know that someone somewhere in the company's information network, someone just opened an email with a mysterious little hidden bug that's going to let a visitor into the ERP system. And tomorrow it's going to tell the IT staff that they have to come up with 10,000 Bitcoin to a mystery account, or everything in the company's system is going to go poof. You don't know at this moment that your company's CFO is staring at her computer screen with a spreadsheet on it and saying to herself, if I can just keep this quiet for one more week, and filling in the rest of it from there. You don't know that someone at one of your main company production facilities just bypassed a safety check because nothing ever goes wrong. So what's the problem? We'll just hold that button down and not worry about it. You don't know at your family company that the founder's son and heir apparent last night was arrested for his third drunk driving offense in the last several years. And finally, you don't know that the company secretary, in preparation for next week's board meeting, had the CEO come up and look at the paperwork on her desk that goes to the board, take one critical sheet of paper out and say, the board doesn't need to see this. I'll talk to them about it later. These are all things that are real world things that have happened and the board never knew about. And some of them have exploded to destroy the company.
Mm.
Board of directors didn't know. And the point I try to do with this thought starter is to let directors, especially outside independent directors, know not only don't you know this, but it's probable you'll never be able to know about it because all of the odds are stacked against you in trying to find out this information. Now give this some thought here. You have company management, the C-suite people, founders, whoever it might be at the company running it day to day. They're committed people. They're very good at their job. They're constantly working at it. These are the folks that, like most top managers, are putting in 70 hours a week. They live, eat, sleep, and breathe the company. managing all of this information. You're an outside director. You get ready for a board meeting. It's been a couple, 3 months since you've had anything to do with any of this. You get a board book, you swing through it, try to make sense of a few hundred pages of information. You show up at the board meeting and you're going to monitor things, catch things in the bud, find out what's really going on behind the scenes and what everyone is going about on. Good luck with that. It's not going to happen. Everything is set against you. And if directors are honest with themselves, they will admit that. They're never going to know all of this stuff that the insiders do. So it's difficult. Sometimes it's almost impossible. And when I do this live, I have a lot of people, I go around and ask, well, what is something that surprised you from a board perspective? And some of the examples I started out with are the ones that we've gotten. Others are in the public domain, but it's something that the directors could stay awake thinking about at night before the board meeting. They don't know what happens. What do you think, Bill?
Well, I think you're spot on. And I guess my mind raced to sometimes when I've been in the boardroom. One of them was the world's largest trucking firm. We won't use their name, but there's probably, I'm going to say, 15 board members and at least 20 guests in this particular meeting that I'm a guest of with the client. And the surprise was that the CEO was only going to retire that afternoon without notice, but that day at that meeting, and it was a 3-day board meeting. So all these guests are there. Presentations outsiders were coming and going, doing presentations. But the reason he was going to retire that afternoon was his son had one of those unfortunate events that morning, and his son was one of the people on the leadership team. So the son was terminated during the board, and the CEO retired because of the personal drain on that. And it was a very public company. It's not like it was a family company, but very unfortunate. And then the ripple and the whispering around the room, and what do you do and how do you do it? But this particular CEO said, we had an agenda, but this is now the agenda. What do you want to do? And as board members, I'm looking at them trying to understand, well, what are they going to do? Well, the lead outsider immediately acted like he knew what was going on, but he was just as surprised as anybody. I checked later. He didn't know what was going to happen either, but he literally took over and ran the meeting and got things. They handled those two issues fairly quickly when you think about it. And the CEO stayed in the room, but he was no longer the CEO, and they didn't appoint one live in the room. But the very next day, there was an interim, and things kept on going. I mean, I won't quote him well, but it was something to the effect of, we're in the shipping business 24/7, so this doesn't slow us down.
If it's a logistics business, it can run under its own momentum for a while. And that's one of the other examples that I give here. You don't know that yesterday your chief executive officer got a really sweet offer to take over another company and is mulling it over right now, because that gets into the whole problem of succession planning. And the board you were talking about here, did they say, whoa, okay, we've got to move up our succession plan? Who is our emergency taker over on the board here?
Well, fortunately, they had that.
Boards away at night. What happened? What happens if your CEO falls off the back of his yacht this weekend? What happens the next day? Well, we've got a name in an envelope somewhere. We looked at it 6 months ago, so we're covered. No, you're not. And that's the other aspect of it here. But another reason boards don't know this stuff is that what they get and what they see for information on the company and their own digging they're going to be surprised because so many things are hidden in plain sight. There's so much information now. To think of how much information is going out on the internet now compared to what was available even a decade ago, much less 50 years ago here. You're on the company. Are you following up on that? That's another thing that I ask board members. You get information from the company. How much time do you spend online looking at stock analyses of the company? What are the analysts saying about it? What is the buzz on the internet? Do you go to employee sites like Open Door and others where they grade employers? I would work here, thumbs up. I wouldn't work here, thumbs down. What are they saying about the company? Do they like it here? Chat rooms in the industry online. Do a search on the company name or the company stock ticker symbol. What are they saying about it? What is the gossip? If you have no idea, then you're going exclusively what's coming through you internally. And what you're getting internally is information through the chief executive's eyes. And the CFO, other staff who are putting it together, who do they report to? The CEO. You're not, you can trust but verify on this and hope that there's not any sort of a grand conspiracy to pull the wool over your eyes, though there have been too many cases where it's happened. But even if everyone is trying to do a good job, they know who signs the paycheck. And that is going to be who processes the information you see as a board member. So I encourage them, if you don't want to be surprised, go digging, because there are probably people out there, especially if you're a public company, who are saying, this is a problem at this company. I don't like the looks of it. Did you know this is happening here? Because if you're on the board, you probably won't know what's happening.
Agreed. Terry from South Africa says, oh,
Hi,
there
Terry. He
Yeah.
said something nice to me on LinkedIn today. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate it.
Very few direct. I don't know if you can see those comments on the bottom, Ralph, of the screen there.
I've got the studio chat
No.
comments. Oh, comments. Okay, I had the wrong thing. Very few directors are watching the external talk surrounding the company. Very skewed if the NED relies solely on info from the C-suite for the board pack. Exactly. And this, I tell people, if you're an independent director, you're something that's very unusual in the business world. It's sort of almost a biological oddity, because you have the insiders at the company, staff, management, the C-suite, everyone who works there. You have all of the outside world. If you're an independent, you're something very rare. It's sort of like a Venn chart where you have two enormous circles, the company structure, the greater world, and right where the two just slightly overlap in the middle is the board member. You're an insider and you're an outsider at the same time. You know all of the confidential stuff about the company that's supposed to be happening, that's coming to you, but you got an outside perspective. You're watching it, or should be, engaging what you hear on it, what you read in the newspapers. I advise directors to spend a couple of hours a week just doing a search online of not just news references, podcasts, commentaries, web chats, what's on all of the various chat things that come up with the name of the company. And you can be surprised what's out there. It may be something crazy. I know this company has alien bodies hidden in the basement or something, but it could also be a red flag that no one's bothered to tell you about.
Terry made another comment. I don't know if you can see that one. There it is.
Yeah. Imagine Ned sitting on 78 boards and saying they understand the business of all of the organization. Real case in South Africa? Terry, is that a case where they're all sort of under the same corporate umbrella, or are these truly different individual companies? Because that's just too bizarre. That's yeah. That's not going to work. And here's something else that lets directors get surprised. And I found there's still a lot of different ways of handling this at separate companies. Oh my God. Wow. Anyway, I'd love to know how this guy handles his organization, but I can't imagine he handles it well enough to do all of this. But here's something. Most companies, certainly public companies around the world, but most larger ones now have internal whistleblower systems for dealing with internal problems, things that pop up. And then I asked boards, how is your board piped into this? What do you see and hear about internal whistleblower complaints? And it's odd because I found there's huge variation on how that happens. Usually it'll be something like corporate counsel or someone in the corporate secretary's office, wherever it comes into, will give an occasional update to the board. Yeah, we had this or that complaint. We followed up on it. Or else they sometimes drown them with statistics. We had 1,492 complaints. 938 of them were someone stealing office supplies from someone else's desk and blah, 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 blah. And drown them in it. And I encourage boards to talk with whoever is the intake and vetter for the whistleblower system in the company to come up with a good reporting plan for what's happening, not just but the big issues, but trends. There may be an office where there are a number of small minor complaints that don't really rise to the board level. But if you add them all up, it tells you something is wrong here. You know, we've got one employee who's doing some whistling at the ladies occasionally, and it's given a sort of, now don't talk about that thing. But if you add it all up, yeah, then there's a problem at that facility. It isn't just a big, someone's committing fraud or some other things like that the board needs to know about. And often they don't really want to bother with it. They don't want to know at the board level what's going on here.
Right. Crazy. Do you happen to have a copy of your new book? Oh, good. I see you reaching. All right.
I come prepared.
I
have to hold it in front of me because it gets blurred out otherwise, and it's still kind of blurring there, but
it's still kind of blurry. I think you have to tilt it. There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Maybe make it a little closer. Can you reach forward?
Oh,
now tilt it again. We'll try again.
I'm too shiny. It's not working. Oh. Almost.
No. Okay.
I have to take my word for it.
Yeah.
I have to get one that's got a matte cover on it, I guess. But yeah, it just was published 1st of September. Got copies. It's on. If you go to Amazon, you can find it in some good prices. And I will warn you, for some reason, my author page on Amazon, for the author photo, they put in some stock photo of someone. And I have been trying to get that fixed. I keep going round and around about with them saying, I want to put in the proper picture. And they say, okay, log on. And then I go to log on and it tells me you're already logged in. You can't do this, and around and around and around. So if you go to the Hacking the Boardroom site on Amazon, there'll be a handsome young man there who you can pretend is me, but go ahead and find the book anyway.
Okay. Now, I don't want to mention numbers, but I saw it several different places, and literally it was, I'll say, triple the price one place than it was another. What is the concept there?
I think it's because I'm going through an academic publisher, and they base themselves on group discounts or something. I don't know, but yeah, when I saw the price, especially for the hardcover, I sort of thought, whoa, I would rather have more copies of my book out there rather than getting rich on selling a handful of them. But I'm just the lowly author, so that's sort of beyond me. But as I said, Amazon has some good rates on it and good prices. And I will be bringing out an audiobook version of it shortly. It's in the works right now. Hope to have that ready before the end of the month.
Okay.
That'll be on Audible.
Yep. Which is also through Amazon, so that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. They're all tied in together.
All right. So anyway, we had our first ever CEO Zones webinar commercial break. Back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yes.
and
what
you
boards
can do
need to
that
know.
again near the end of the hour. The only thought I had was maybe if you printed it out on printed the cover on a piece of paper, it wouldn't be shiny, but we could, that's fine. We don't need to do it, but maybe that would help you. I don't know.
Damn, it's doing it that one, and that one's even kind of
There you
dull.
go. That's good right there. We can get
Get
the
a
idea.
printer of it.
Beautiful white letters. There we go. All right. So back to surprises in the boardroom. What do we do about them? How do we deal with that? I had a question that just in case Terry, Mary, or any of those professional directors, Rich, that's on our council of advisors, if they didn't come up and put anything in the chat, we would have a smart one here. So how does smart boards stay ahead of risk? And this is a huge topic, but can I give us maybe the I don't know, the Reader's Digest version of that? Because I know that there's a whole lot of risk out there that maybe certain board of directors have different committees even set up to think about different kinds of risk. But
I have seen a trend over the last decade or two of a dedicated risk committee on larger public company boards. It started out more in financials, ones with tight regulation, a lot of multinational companies that had to deal with it. I don't necessarily know if that's the best way of handling it. One problem that I have seen with boards is that they, over the last 20 years, have realized, yeah, we have to look closely at the board risk issues facing the company, strategy, finance, certainly politics, regulation, and all of that nowadays. but they're not really sure how to divvy it up. And the default response on a lot of boards I have seen has been to, what do I want to say here? It's another one of the items they dump on the audit committee. The audit committee is the kitchen junk drawer of the board of directors. We have a new concern. We have a new issue. We've got a great committee here, independent, well-led. Let's put it in the audit committee. And those on boards know the audit committee bloat, overstretch, has become a real problem. And usually they will get the risk portfolio. And the best way I have found to do that is deal with that is at least annually for the board of directors to sit down and do a charter update for all of their committees, sit down, look at them, read through who has responsibility for what. A lot of boards have never done this. They have charters that are way outdated. And when they dig into them, they found out, oh, we never actually empowered the committee to look at this or that issue, or we have something that simply lost between the stools of the committee. And that's good because it takes the burden off the audit committee. You can honestly say, here are the risk issues that we have now and that are coming up. Dealing with AI risk, dealing with currency risk, trading international risk, certainly all of the various legal risk issues that are coming out there, liability matters. Should we divvy that up among the committees of the board instead of putting it into a targeted risk committee, which I would actually encourage doing? For example, compensation risk. We know how many finance and trading companies over the last couple of decades have absolutely been destroyed because one rogue member of their trading team or someone along the way took a bet the company risk and lost the company in the process. It can happen. What are you incenting people to do, and how will they work around that, and what are the dangers for that? And that's just a compensation thing. And if you have that with legal risk issues, well, they don't necessarily fit well in the same portfolio. So you decide, do we need a dedicated risk committee? Is it something the whole board should do? There are a lot of ways of handling it, but I would really suggest the board do an overall charter update to look at it plainly and logically. How do we want to cut up this pie on the boardroom? And then do that at least yearly as a review, so you won't be so surprised.
Terry makes a good point again. It's a good thing South Africa stays up late for us, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the middle of the night there or something. But wouldn't boards face fewer surprises or risks if governance responsibilities were directly linked to performance measures? Now, I would encourage that, but then I come right back to what performance measures? Specifically, do you want the board working on here and working to, I should say? And I don't know about that. I really don't, because governance and the board role are things that encourage performance measures, but can you really judge how well the board is doing its job and performing by quarterly results or by stock price? I don't think we can, but it's very difficult to make that call. I'd love to hear how someone else has done that and does it equitably.
Today's news here in central Pennsylvania, the president of Penn State University, we'll go ahead and use their name, closed a lot of regional campuses this fall. They didn't open them this fall. They said, costing too much. We're going back to smaller number of campuses, but larger campuses. And it was reported in the news. That wasn't the news. The news was the president of Penn State got a 47% base pay increase because of the cuts. Well, that is not good news for a taxpayer or a student who no longer can go to their local community. They got to travel 5 hours, let's say, to get to a Penn State campus. So it's quite buzzy in the boardroom news today here.
Isn't it interesting how those two always seem to go together in the news? Something very bad, tightening our belts, and someone is getting a great pay spiff at the top of the organization.
Which, not a bad pay before the 47% increase in my account. Okay.
Could I jump in though with one other comment here? And I wanted to mention it. I discussed whistleblower systems internal. There is more what you call in the intelligence community human intelligence going on, and a lot of organizations, smaller ones, government-related entities, some nonprofits, you'll usually have board members that are familiar, friends, know people deeper in the management structure of the company. One of my favorite examples here was a government-related entity that I worked with in Africa. And literally, one member of the board knew some people because they had tribal connections, and they were very tied in with the company. And then you get into a very big pile of weeds in dealing with that, with how much should board members be talking to members below the immediate C-level suite to find out what's really going on in the organization. And that is a whole box of worms, because you can get into all sorts of difficulties on it. Most chief executives are very uncomfortable with that. But there are other cases where it's going to naturally happen and you have to deal with it. Here was one example, and this was the one I just mentioned, to a governmental organization in Africa. Member of the board was a distant relative of someone fairly deep within the organization, dealing with finance, dealing with operations. And but that was sort of their little bird within the organization that whispered in their ear on what was going on within the company. And they would report back information to the board that sometimes would directly contradict what management reports and what the chief executive was telling them, and saying, well, the word on the factory floor is they don't have confidence in this. They don't like how this is happening. They told me this on the QT. I can't share who said it and who information, but I've got it from a good source in the company. They're not happy about this. This is backfiring. This isn't working well. And when I use that as an example in training, boy, the great discussion that pops up, because there are people who say, well, why not? That's a great way to do it. And there are people who say, no, that's terrible. That's destructive. And it's interesting how many different viewpoints you get on that. My viewpoint is that it's probably more destructive than it is positive. Because you're getting unfiltered information that's probably no better than gossip. And you're getting it second or even third hand before it comes to the full board. So who's interpreting it? Who's putting their shading on it? Is the person who is actually doing the whispering in the director's ear, do they have their own agenda that they're working on? At the board level, you don't know that. But that's why I encourage companies to come up with a way of handling that that's equitable. Yes, on the board, you should have the ability to talk to some people below the CEO's office. It's something that's natural, but you have to come up with rules and etiquette that everyone is happy about.
Right, exactly. Let's see. So we're going to stay in this theme of what surprises boards. I'm trying to think of other times when I've walked in the room and been surprised, or sitting there and been surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of,
go ahead, Bill.
Yeah. I can think of one time where the CFO was a guest, was not a director, but he was a guest. And he was asked a question by a director. He was given a presentation on something, and I don't even remember what that was about. Probably some form of investment that they were going to make. And in any event, because of the company, I think it was an outside investment they were going to make. And in any event, they paused for questions, and the CEO and the CFO worked well together, but there was this stress between them, kind of like, and it did happen, I guess, 2 years later, the CFO did become the CEO, and the CEO knew that person wanted it, but yet he was the best CFO that they could find, right? So it was kind of, I accept you, you accept me, but at some point, I'm going to take over. So, and the board knew that as well. And I don't know if that was a plan or not. I just know as an outsider that was happening. But in any event, they get to a Q&A, and the CEO looks to his right and he says, ask John, which wasn't his name, ask John anything you want. Well, they asked him a question about an expense item, and the CEO said, I meant about that investment. Well, when he said it that way, every director now wanted to pay attention and go, well, what's going on about that? What was that expenditure? And the CFO had to actually rat out his boss, which he did not want to do on, and I won't get into what it was, or you might figure out the company, but in any event, it was just a bad thing. And that also was a surprise, and it was a casual, unfortunately, the CEO did not get mad at the CFO as like, you waited for your chance to get me in trouble. It was just a casual, accidental question that a board of director had done his homework and saw something that he wanted to ask a question. So in any event, oh, good. Terry, how much of the surprise factor comes from information bottlenecks? I haven't seen that. Yeah. Management.
Yep. Go ahead. And you just gave a good example, Terry. Bill just gave a good example, because, why was this not known before? The CEO knew it, and the CEO didn't want it known. That was one of the you don't knows. As the CEO smoothed out or filtered or processed information that went to you as a board. And there again, you run into all sorts of, well, what about this situations? And well, would it be okay? Moral relativism things, because you've seen this happen, Bill, in management. the times when a chief executive said, I don't want to go to the board with this information quite yet.
Yep.
I'm still working on this. Maybe I'm working on a major acquisition or deal, and I simply don't want to let that get out even to the board members until I have more information. Okay, is that right or is that wrong?
Correct.
It's tricky because you have to deal with those situations. And then you might have a case where even if you do go to the board and give them this very vague, open-ended information, you're going to get a lot of questions that you don't really have answers for yet. Well, how are they responding to the pricing? Well, what is the discussion here? Well, I don't know yet. We haven't gotten to that stage. And the CEO is thinking, I'm going to look like I don't know as much as I should know at this point. Best thing to do is throw away the key or at least hide it until the next board meeting. But is that right or is that wrong?
Right. That reminds me of a different story, Ralph, where in the consulting business, it happened, but it was rare, where we'd have a client want to prepay a $10 million consulting bill before we started, so it became a balance sheet item, so he wouldn't have to report to the board every quarter on, well, you spent all that money, are you getting your return on investment, or what are we doing? And he looked me dead in the eye and said, I'm going to pay you all up front, it'll be on my balance sheet, and you will never come to a board meeting. And apparently one of the references that brought me to this CEO said, you really want him in the board meeting because he can answer questions around the details of XYZ, right? Because he's deeply involved. My teams were embedded, right? But this particular CEO said, I want you guys, I'm paying you up front, don't look back. And we won't be reporting to the board.
Load it, and that's getting obviously dangerous right there.
Yeah.
But one other way I found, a lot of it is pre-planning. Boards tend not to ask a lot of questions that would really do them some good. And sometimes it isn't even questioning as much as it's preparation at the board level. Boards don't tend to invest as much time. And remember a few minutes ago, I mentioned they needed to do a yearly charter overview. A lot of boards don't do that housekeeping sort of things that would make a big difference. Another one is succession planning, digging into the details. Who are we developing talent? Are we keeping talent? Are we able to attract it? Are we developing the right people along the way? Do people want to leave us? Why do they want to leave us? And that goes obviously up to the very top. Is the CEO developing the next leader for the company? Do we have a backup plan in place? Who's number two here? You get to the situation like with McDonald's 15 or 20 years ago. Had a new CEO take over, promptly died. Did you already have a second bench of CEO talent ready to go? They did in that case. But you don't know whether that's going to happen unless the board does that. They're going to be surprised because they haven't done anything to keep themselves from being surprised in these instances. Well, what happens? Like I said, if your CEO falls off the back of his yacht this weekend, like that, okay, who takes over without missing a beat? Do you know that? Have you prepared that person? Do you have a long-term development plan? And do you have a name in the envelope who can instantly take over? They can be two different plans that work independently. Has the board thought of this? How recently has the board thought of it? There have been cases when the board had a succession name for a top exec, and when they needed them, it was so outdated. Oh, well, he left 6 months ago, but no one ever bothered to update the plan here. Don't let yourself be surprised is one of the things I tell boards.
Okay. So we talked about there's surprises. Are there some big blind spots that are out there for boards? Oh, we got a question, maybe. I don't see a question. But, okay.
My man. Board shouldn't be surprised when governance activities are digitized and embedded. A digitized governance framework shifts oversight from hindsight to foresight, helping directors That's how boards become. I won't read through the whole thing, but yes, Terry, and that was one of the things I was going to get to here. You've got great digital tools now that help with dealing with this and help with board information overload online with board portals. Think about it. If you're doing something at a committee level and you're wondering, well, why are we messing with this? Is this even in our committee charter? You got to get in touch with the corporate secretary. You'd have to dig it out. You got to wait till the next meeting. If you're using a smart board portal setup, all of the governance documents should be in a library right online. You go click here, click down to the next one. There's the latest charter we have. Here are all our governance documents. Here are our bylaws. Here are minutes of the last year or two or however many of the board. Didn't we cover that last year here? What is it? You go back and look and it's right there. You don't have to hold on to that. You don't want to hold on to that if you're an independent director, because it's a nightmare of information that can get discovered if you have it in your desk. And you don't want to have the corporate secretary or someone having to dig through paper to find it. This way you can find out instantly what you need to know and do a better job. Again, fewer surprises.
So our mutual friend Mary made a comment. She's sorry
Mary.
Yeah, so Southern Florida, I believe. Joining late, good discussion. Role of the board is in demand. Surfaces. I think what we miss is to ensure there is clarity on materiality so we can see the numbers rather than sanitized reports.
Great point.
Very good point. Yeah.
I like that. And that's another good thing. And again, that's where digital tools are so handy. If you are getting a 300-400 page wad of paper or the equivalent online to review a few days before a board meeting, well, that's just not going to happen realistically. But if you have worked with management and corporate secretary and everyone to boil that down into things like digital red, yellow, green light, stoplight reports that boil it down, and then you have the ability to click on anything. Whoa, was green. Now it's yellow. Why is that? Click on it. And then you can go into all of the detail on why that number is different. Think of how empowering that is.
Yeah. You just reminded me, one of the largest construction equipment companies in the world, we won't use their name, but a very big one that is a common household name. And I went to their board meeting one time, and the CEO came out literally with 2 feet of paper and sat it there and said, "I'm ready for you this time." And it was 2 feet of paper. I mean, and it was all and you could tell the guy had to have spent his life preparing it. There was little sticky notes and little notes on every page. So if they asked him something, he could find what was going on. And it was before they could tie all the different operating companies' data together. So they had financial reports that were consolidated, but anything from marketing, anything that wasn't a P&L or a balance sheet was not connected yet. And I looked at that and I kind of laughed, and I wasn't supposed to laugh at the time, but fortunately they paid me in advance. So, and we had good time, but I couldn't believe it. And that guy did that probably 2 board meetings that I was in with him. And then we finally said, you can't be doing this. And we built them a SharePoint site just for the board, because it was crazy. Because other board were CEOs and professional board members of big, because of who they are, big, giant companies who were well ahead of them. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Now, one other thing I was going to say, there are a number of things that boards and companies should be doing to keep directors informed better, so they're not surprised, not necessarily doing here. One is having a real sit down with those managers and saying, this is what we need to be informed at the board level, instead of being reactive about it here. Because you have, I mentioned this, these are the day-to-day managers. They live, eat, and breathe this. They shoot information back. They make reports for each other. They're shorthanding information because everyone knows what they're talking about. They're using lots of abbreviations and terms of art in it. And what happens in the board information? They call some of that and stuff it in and send it to the board. We've informed the board. And it's written at a level that they can't deal with because they're outsiders. One thing that I advise everyone to do, just a simple tool, and this is something from my book, put together an acronym cheat sheet for everything that goes in the board book. All of the abbreviations, all of the quick terminology, all of the little things that go in. If you come across AAA term in a report, well, is that bond rating? Is that anti-aircraft artillery? What is that? I mean, even things that you think are obvious, the board members are not going to know what context you're using it in. So at least put in a terminology sheet or a sheet that they can look at, or better yet, online, something they can quickly click on and say, oh, okay, that's what it means. Because people in board meetings do not tend to hold up their hands and say, what's that mean? It's not an environment for doing that. So you make it so they don't have to.
Exactly. I was able to go on Amazon there and put the link in the chat for Ralph's.
Thank you.
Yeah, for Ralph's new book. So that'll be great. And Mary, this link, if it opens, I can't see what happened there. I click on it. Oh, I'll have to wait, Mary, to click on your link until after we're done.
Oh, okay.
It won't let me click on it. But
Mary, can I follow up on that? Because it looks interesting and I want to know more about it. I will follow up on that after the meeting. Oops. I tried to highlight it and I made it disappear here. So I'm going to have to do some, maybe I can't do that. Okay.
Wait
here.
Yeah, well, I think we have to wait till we're off the live stream and then we can click on that link.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it
one final tool. I told you this when we started, Bill. Once you get me started, you have to throw something at me to shut me up. But
go.
Just starting to see this using AI tools for board information and boards informing themselves. You've got this 50-page report. You can dig through it. You can ask management to come up with ways of making it simpler. Or you can try running it through one of the AI tools to say, give me the basic information and essentials on this that I need to know in one page. See what comes out. Don't trust it necessarily, but it can make a great quick study guide. And it can help you find things in this I should know about that might be obscured in the information. I had an article in my newsletter here a couple of issues ago, great AI prompts for board information and how you ask the right question is important with AI, but great way of doing it.
I've found a new tool. I won't use its name because I haven't verified that it's 100% on the accuracy side, but you feed it PDF files. And that is all that it will learn. It won't go to the internet like ChatGPT. It won't go out and find everything. It will only learn what you feed it. And then you talk to it and ask it questions based on the PDF files that you've given it. And it will only take PDF files, but it'll take thousands of PDF files if that's what you want to do. And I was fooling around with it for our internal purposes here, where all the content partners.
So it's sort of a virtual presenter.
Yeah, and you ask it questions, and I found it through last night at least to be really good. But we won't promote it yet because I need to dig deeper.
And there are a lot of tools popping up for using AI for parsing board information, and always aside from the warning of what you're getting out, be aware of what's going out there and you mentioned here, it only looks at the internals of that PDF. You don't want to be stuffing your board information onto ChatGPT and finding out that all of that's going out to train everyone else's AI queries out there, because that could be a nightmare.
Absolutely. You want to keep it in the sandbox. Okay, I don't know where we are on time. We always have so much fun, Ralph. Okay, we have 8 or 9 minutes if we stay on time. And James Hickey, who I know well,
Sounds
he
like
says
Grok.
sounds like
Mhm.
Gronk, and it is not, James. But yes, I have
Oh,
used Gronk as well. But no, the tool, it's actually a tool that uh, it's not that well known, but it will be soon if it works as well as I think it does. So okay. And it's a separate set of engines, James. Also, it's not a platform, so
okay.
it's a engine built for that type of position. All right.
Oh,
So
my ADD came up with something else here when it comes to boards getting surprised and
good.
blindsided. And it goes back to the very beginning as to especially people who are recently risen in the governance world are at a level, career level, where they're getting early, and maybe even their first board invitation. And they're very chuffed about it. Wow, I've finally gotten my ticket punched. And they end up surprised because they don't bother investigating who they're going to be dancing with here before they accept the invitation. How much digging are you doing when you join a board? Who else is on this board? What has the company been up to? Do they have some litigation or some failures out there? Who are the top managers? What is their background? Is there litigation in the works? You join a board of directors and find out after you've joined the first board meeting. And now here's the information on the lawsuit that we've been facing on this. That's a surprise that you would want to have known about before you joined the board, but you didn't ask and you didn't do enough digging. So, yeah, it's great. You've been named to the board. Hooray. You're part of the club now. Before you join that club, find out who else is in the club with you and what skeletons there could be hidden.
Excellent. That was a good ADD moment. You put us both together, and who knows where we could end up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we might take a trip around Michigan and get some honey. Uh, should be the end of the honey season around your house there, right? That's
Yeah, it
yeah.
is.
Yeah. Some of the best honey in the world comes from there. I've been there helping a cereal company with their honey. Okay. Did I have another question? Well, I have one that kind of ties two of our content partners together. So let's assume there's a uh, crisis. So Ralph, Jeff Chatterton, our crisis communicator, the CEO of Checkmate Affairs, he did a webinar with us. I guess it was last week. He also is on a monthly schedule for everybody that would care about that. But how does the interact with a crisis communication, uh, contaminated water, or a food safety issue comes out, or metal is found in ice cream, which
Yeah.
that type of thing. How
Mhm.
does the board interact with that, if at all? That crossed my ADD matter. So
And that's another issue that I check with boards on, and they're not doing that well. I have an exercise I do when I'm training them and say, describe your corporate crisis plan that kicks in when something happens and the role of your board. And too often there's sort of some eye rolling and they don't have one. So again, do the homework in advance. What do we do if there is a crisis facing the company? And what are the various aspects and elements of it that are in place that we can call on? Where does the board come in? And it has to, you can't cover everything here because as you mentioned here, the contaminated product item, you have a member of top management who says something on the internet that turns out to be disastrous and embarrasses the company. The CEO, again, fell off the back of his boat or something. Someone got led away in handcuffs. We just got a Wells notice from the SEC. All of these are going to have different ways of dealing with them, but you can put together the building blocks of a crisis plan that can kick in to cover them. Here is what we do from the top if we have this crisis. If the crisis is the CEO, here is how the board and chair can work around that and deal with it. but you plan this out in advance. You make sure everyone knows what their roles are, and you don't have to panic when something happens. Here's our crisis. We've gotten, like I said here, a hacking incident that shut down all of our network systems. What do we do? How would we deal with that? Doing sandbox training and war training here on this at the company level, and then letting the board know what they have to do. Who is the first person we call? Who is the second person we call? When does the board get involved in this? We don't know what the crisis will be, but we know what kicks in when it happens. It's like Eisenhower said about D-Day. Plans are generally useless, but planning itself is invaluable. You come up with all of these alternatives, your plan is going to fall apart, but you've done the planning, so you know what your backup and alternatives are.
Good input. Apparently, my clock's running a little fast there. My Chick-fil-A retirement clock just dinged in the background on my side. Okay. Let's see. I don't see any other questions. Let me just scroll through there.
Okay.
Uh,
Terry, I was going to ask, what other organizations do you work with in South Africa on governance? Because I've always liked that. There are a few countries that really do a good job of thinking about corporate governance. South Africa is one of them. Australia is another. And I've always liked their organizations. I just wondered who you're involved with other than your own.
I don't know if he's typing or not. You might be thinking that over.
Across private public companies. Okay. You can check in with me later, or just send me a LinkedIn note on it, because I'd love to follow up with you on it. I love the questions you're asking, and I always try to get involved with who knows. Yeah, we'll take this offline, Terry, and just do a LinkedIn messaging.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate you coming. Wouldn't it be fun to have Mary, Terry, Ralph together on a webinar? I don't know. He says, sure. That didn't take long. I was just thinking out loud there, but yeah, okay. I can't imagine. We probably, maybe we would get one of our CEO members from, one comes to mind that has 50,000 employees. He'd be a fun guy where he would pepper you with questions selfishly, but would add great value for him alive right then and there. But at the same time, there's got to be other CEOs larger than him or smaller than him that go, oh, wow, I didn't give that a thought about my board. So sounds like a date. Okay, yeah. Terry. Well, we'll think that through. Ralph and I'll think that through first, but that just crossed my
Online mind. Is good. In person is even better. Let's all fly down to Johannesburg and find some place on the beach. And
whoa, not Johannesburg. I don't want to offend anybody, but it's Stellenbosch or I can't go. That's, you know, you got a few favorite places in South Africa, and that's one of them. But from what I've seen on video when I talked to Terry separately,
Terry.
He said Cape Town is better. Okay.
Yeah.
Stellenbosch, I might be able to call in a few favors in the region there. But in any event, it's been a pleasure having you on again, Ralph. We're looking forward to seeing you again on Wednesday, October 22nd at 3 Eastern. We'll do another webinar. I do forget those topics. I know you have them pre-prepared and questions. But we sure do appreciate you investing in CEO Zones, Ralph, and I trust that CEOs and board members will gain value from this as we continue to do them. I know that on the replays, we're getting some good comments, so that's a good thing out on YouTube, and those are good. Here we look for questions, but out there I look at the comments, so that's good stuff. Thank you so much.
Let me know what feedback you get here, because I get some of the best ideas from someone saying, no, you're wrong about doing X, you should do Y instead. And I like to hear that. Oh, good. That's something to think about.
All right. And hopefully everybody realizes that your book link to Amazon is in the chat. We'll make sure we said that. And I think we, yep, that's the book. Yep. It's still hard to see Hold up.
Well,
Oh, right there.
don't
Yep, you had it right there at the end. So thank you all, and let's say goodbye, and I'll see you in just a minute, Ralph.
All right. Thanks, everyone.